an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering The Magicians, Season 4, Episode 3, Bad News Bear. In this episode, we have another heist, kind of. I was pretty into this, actually. And overall, I thought this episode ruled. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Natasha. First of all, thank you very much to Ashley for commissioning this episode. Thank you, Ashley. Appreciate you. This episode, man, it just kind of comes out of the gate really doing something different than I expected because, the last episode ends with Elliot, I'm not here to play, with his eyes flaming. And I really thought we'd just pick up right where that left off, which would be fine. I'm not mad about that. But instead, we have Margot running into Marina in the lobby of her apartment building, which, by the way, looks like a fucking castle. And I really enjoy seeing Marina and Margot interact because they are so similar in so many ways, and yet they have fundamentally different moral compasses. So they are both like power bitches. They are both people who fly solo and like it that way. They are both fashion first. They are both, I want what I want and I want it now. But they do not go about getting what they want the same way at all. And because of that, it's interesting to watch them interplay because of how much you can forget, because Margot can seem so sort of severe in comparison to the rest of the very sensitive, touchy-feely crew. You forget that she's still a decent person. She's still doing her best to do the right thing most of the time. And Marina could not care less about that. I mean, it's just so not even on her radar that the fact that people would judge her for not doing the right thing is even like kind of mystifying to her. She's just like, I don't get why you guys are so caught up in that. Who cares? So I really, really liked to see them meeting and talking for the first. I think this is the first time ever, correct me if I'm wrong, that we see Marina and the actual Margot interact. I think I'm right about that. And it's just a kind of a fun moment because Marina is like, Margot rightfully says, "You look like you're running away from something. What's going on, girl?" And Marina says, "Yeah, well, there's something in my apartment that I'm pretty sure is killing your friends right now. So I'm going to get a breakfast burrito. Do you want to get one?" Total, like the delivery of that line. I feel like that's the kind of line that could easily have felt a little bit too like trying too hard if it weren't for her delivery of it, which really made it. I laughed out loud. I actually watched this episode on my phone on the treadmill at the gym, which I know when I say that, it probably sounds like it's not a great way to do things, but I find I actually pay even better attention when I'm watching it that way because my phone is what I'm watching on and I cannot pick my phone up to do other things and also keep watching. So my focus is 100%. But yeah, this moment of her saying, I'm going to get a breakfast burrito. Want to come? I fucking cracked up. I mean, she just said it so perfectly. So Margot is like, "Are you kidding me? We have to help them." To which Marina says, "Oh, you're one of those." And says, "Okay, well, to be fair, this thing seems like a god. And I'm calling it a he because it seems like some toxically masculine behavior. it just walked in through my wards, I set off all my alarms. It does not seem to be affected by anything. So I'm assuming that it's godlike. And I apparently was killed by a god in this dimension, or in this timeline. So me, coming from a different timeline, decided to take precautions against that happening again. So I built in a system, and the first part of this system is you have to get him to sit in the gold chair. And Margot asks why the gold chair, but I like to think that were Margot actually able to see the gold chair when Marina told her this part, she wouldn't even have to ask, because when you see it, that's so obviously the thing. Like, it makes total sense. So you get the god to sit in the gold chair, and there is a bell that you ring, and that bell will activate the dispersal of this basically god meth is what I think Margot calls it later on. But it's essentially going to incapacitate whatever is sitting in that chair. It's like it doesn't render them unconscious, because as we see later, when Bacchus gets poisoned with it, he is still able to talk a little bit. He's able to open his eyes. He gets knocked out initially, but later on, it's still keeping him from moving, and yet he is still conscious. So it reminds me, how many of you guys have seen Midsummer? It kind of reminded me of what happens, and I won't spoil it, at the end of Midsummer. And y'all, when you see Bacchus's eyes moving around, you know what I'm talking about. So this thing, it's the one sort of negative to this plan is that it requires access to that bell. And Margot, once she winds up in that situation, it's so tough, because you know what she's waiting to happen. And sure enough, this creature does sit down in that gold chair. It's the exact thing. But she can't get to the bell in order to ring it. So I just really, there's so much I love about this episode. Okay, so Margot winds up going up there. Of course, she knows that there's something with God level power in the room, but she doesn't know what it looks like. And Marina doesn't understand that it's Elliot to even warn Margot that Elliot isn't himself. And I don't know that Marina would, even if she did know, because that's just not really in her nature to think about warning somebody about that kind of thing. But she basically comes running in and heads straight for Elliot, and Quentin has to jump up and be like, that is not Elliot. And she gets this look of just dread on her face. Her acting in this, I liked it a lot. So she watches him sit down in the very gold chair, and you see her just dying to do something, looking at the bell, can't get over there without raising suspicion. And meanwhile, this creature is deciding who to kill first, and talks about how the order of it is very important. And he's looking at each of them, figuring out the hierarchy of who cares about who. And he sees that that Katie keeps looking at Penny. So he knows, obviously, you are going to have to go after him. And then he sees that Quentin isn't really looking at anybody in particular, because he cares about all of them. And so he has to go last out of everyone. And then he zeroes in on Josh. And the way he's looking at them, oh my God. He says, the round innocent face will make your death particularly upsetting, so I've decided to start with you. And he just makes the slightest movement with his fingers, and Josh doubles over, choking. And this is really one of those moments for me where I often think about, if I were an actor and I had to pretend to be in pain due to some sort of like magical power taking over my body and affecting me somehow, how would I portray it? And I have to say, out of everybody, because we've seen a lot of moments of characters being gripped up in this show by one magical entity or another, I feel like Josh's like play of what this looks like is the most upsetting, because he does this sort of like this like gasping like wheeze that almost turns into a vomiting sound, but never quite gets there because it's not actually vomiting. It's like he's choking on his own blood. And it is really fucked up. Like, there's no blood yet. There's nothing happening to him yet, but you already are just so horrified. And then it begins to come out of his mouth, but you're already like, you didn't even need that to really be extremely upset about what was happening. So yeah, I mean, it might be also that his round innocent face made it more upsetting, but I really think it was the actor being able to like make me believe this was happening. And Hugabug says, I feel like she could have gotten to the bell, but her hesitation was because it was Elliot and she wants to get the monster out of him so they don't kill him. Maybe, but I don't know if she was thinking that far yet. I don't know. Like, I know later on she says that, and I think that she eventually got there. But initially I was like, because it would, like, bringing that wouldn't have killed him, right? It would have disabled him. So I am thinking that maybe she started to realize, like, well, after we disable him, then what? Then we kill him. And then, like, so either, I really don't think, though, I have to disagree with that she could have gotten to the bell. I don't think she could. He can barely move a finger and bring you to your knees. He can, like, twitch a pinky and Quentin's arm is broken. I don't think she could have made it. I really don't. But regardless, she decides to make a deal. And because he says something about how he's hunting gods. And she knows where Bacchus is and tells him, if you let them all live, I can take you to Bacchus. And it's a really good play that never even occurred to me, even though she had just seen Bacchus, even though we had that whole scene. And I mean, Bacchus screwed her over too and was just like, you know, kicked her out of Fillory, even though she's High King. So in that respect also, I'm just kind of like, yeah, you know what? Fuck Bacchus. Good. Give him up. Like, I'm not even mad about that at all. And he stands up and says, perhaps we can be friends after all, which is a really interesting turn of phrase. It's not like maybe we can work together. Maybe we can be friends after all, which is really clearly what's at the heart of things. And I wish that I could zero in on exactly what happened here. But it's obvious that this thing needs like connection and doesn't seem to be able to make that happen. And she flat out says to it later that she will never be friends with it unless it assures her that somewhere inside of it, Elliot is still there. And that it needs to promise that it will eventually give Elliot up as a body. And its answer to that is essentially, I like this body too much. I see the way that you guys all look at it. And I don't really know why you think I would ever be willing to give it up. And it's really like this way of playing a villain, I find really, really effective, where you can have your bombastic villains who are extremely over the top. You can have your quiet villains who are like almost like they're definitely still the villain, but they work in such a logical way and they are so intelligent about the way they play everything that you almost find yourself kind of rooting for them sometimes. There are villains that we like try and make like almost impish with the way that they like take delight in cruelty and like harming people, and like that's like a real sort of Joker-esque, or Glory from Buffy is the other one that I think of. there is a lot of ways that you can do this, but having there be a villain that isn't actually enjoying doing this, but seems to feel compelled somehow and doesn't understand itself or its own motivations, there is something really fucking human about that to me that I find alarming. Like, how many of us go through our entire lives doing things and acting in ways that when we stop and look at them, we don't really even understand? How many times have we been asked why we're upset about something and we can't even really put our finger on why we are so upset, because it's like logically not something that should bother us or even be any of our business? How many times have we watched almost from the outside ourselves say something shitty or do something really awful, and from the outside been like, oh my God, why am I acting like this? Why am I being this way? And we can't seem to like keep ourselves from doing it. That is like something that growing up and going to therapy will teach you about. Like, it will start to open your eyes to why this is the way you react. This is the instinctive like emotion that comes up at certain times. But a lot of people never get to the point where they are introspective enough to even wonder, like, or to find out those answers. And I feel like in that sense, Elliot is like that. He's like, there's like this feeling of self-loathing that comes off him that is so intense. He doesn't want to be here. He doesn't want to be doing this, but he doesn't know what else to do to get what he wants. And what does he want? He does not know. Which, yeah, I get that. This is just a very upsettingly human villain, despite the fact that it has such power. And really, you want it to have this like mission, and its mission is hunting gods, but that's like a step in its search for something, and that something is still anonymous. I just hate it. Like, it's really like fucking with me to watch, especially in Elliot's body, who we do know has suffered with self-loathing and issues like about his addiction and this behavior of like compulsively doing things that are like a bad pattern for you, that are unhealthy for you, that are self-destructive. It feels almost like the worst parts of his personality have been amplified, and what he really is in terms of all of the goodness of him is gone. And I think that's what's so scary about the creature, is that I believe that it is an outside thing that has taken Elliot over. But I would not be totally shocked if it turned out. Could you try again? Oh my God, Siri, you scared the hell out of me. Stop it, Siri. I wasn't talking to you either. I would not be surprised if it turned out that this creature wasn't even a creature as such, but more a feeling of emptiness that takes people and turns them in on themselves. So in the end, those people begin to act the same way because they have lost the capacity for something, for love, for joy and contentment, for a feeling of connection. I don't know. But it's like, I don't know. There's more here, and I'm just fucking fascinated by it. And I find his performance really compelling. And he is sad, and there's a monotone sort of like way that he delivers his lines, but it's not monotone to the point where there is no emotion there. It's monotone in like the way you get either when you're deeply depressed or when you have so much, like you are having such a reaction that it is taking everything you have to hold it in and not scream at somebody or not burst into tears in front of somebody. There's a feeling of him being absolutely on the edge of losing it every second. And I just wonder about the energy that he put into this role for this season and what it was like for him to play this after Elliot, who is so different and yet has some of the same qualities, you know? Huggabug says, kind of like the Suicide Key. Kind of, but even deeper than that. Like, that key is your, like, just purely your self-doubt eating at you. The terrible things that you think about yourself, this thing is, like, telling you. This is more like, because there's still that other piece of you that can fight back. There's still that other piece of you that can say, that's not true, and I don't buy it. And, like, granted, not everybody survives it and is able to push through to the other side. But some people are. And this feels like a force that it doesn't, like, you can't stop it. This is just doing this to you, and you can't really fight back. And it like completely delete the portion of you that had been capable of fighting back and capable of feeling maybe, period. Anything other than, like, isolation and loneliness and despair, you know? But anyway, okay, so we go back to break bills. And the dean is back. Like, it has been exactly like a day. But he is already back, and everybody has stolen all of his liquor. But luckily, he has a secret stash of liquor under his very obvious stash of liquor because he likes liquor. Oh, Dean, buddy, you need to figure your life out. So Julia is here, looking like Julia again, and she asks where everybody else is. And the dean says, I don't know, they were supposed to remain hidden. I meant to protect you. And Julia's like, you know, honestly, everything that you threw at me didn't even leave a scratch. And Reynard said that without their powers, even, gods are hard to kill. So I don't know if I needed protection. But he's like, you don't know Irene McAllister, so I wouldn't say that if I were you. So then he starts to, you know, say something about how contacting your friends will put a target on their backs. And he says it in this way that's like really putting the responsibility on Julia in this way that's like, I really appreciated her calling him out immediately because he sort of, there's a tone to him of just like, well, do you really want to do that and cause that kind of problem for them with your actions? And she says, to be clear, you put the target on our backs when you betrayed us. And we sacrificed everything. You know everything that we sacrificed. And this is what you decided to do with it? And he says, I made a deal. And I did it because I wanted to save your lives. And she says, yeah, well, you're pretty fucking quick to compromise. You know that? That is a really good line. You're pretty fucking quick to compromise. You know what? That's a good way to say that. I get what you were trying to do. I'm not even saying your intentions weren't good or that you were, you know, but it does feel like you are fine with throwing everybody under the bus the instant that looks like it's necessary. And that worries me a little bit. And you know what? Me too, bitch. Yeah. So, and she says, I need to find my friends. I can't do magic, so you are going to cast a locator spell for me. And when the way that she like read him, you can see he is a little bit shook by it. That got to him and he agrees to do it. So we go to Alice. Now, guys, I gotta be honest here. Alice's story is really boring me. I don't really know what to do. I don't know if it's me. I suspect that we won't be here too much longer, but at the moment, I am just tired. of what's going on with her being locked up. And I'm realizing that I don't really like Alice as a character that much. It's not even like I used to like her and she was ruined. I don't feel like I ever really warmed to Alice, and she has just been sort of either a villain or just like kind of a shitty person so much throughout the duration of this show that at this point, her really caring about her friends and wanting to keep them from getting hurt by this thing rings very hollow to me, because she betrayed them so completely in their quest to bring back magic that I absolutely can't buy her concern. It just doesn't, these things don't gel for me. Her decision that magic shouldn't be brought back felt very out of left field, and like they just needed a reason to get Julia to get rid of her goddess powers. I just don't really like Alice as a character, and I find her storylines to be particularly tedious all the time. Like, all of last season was her trying to come to terms with being like back in a human body and not being a Niffin anymore. And then the whole season before that was all about Quentin trying to bring her back to life. And it was just, it feels like she is the one that gets stuck with this one mission for the whole season that I just don't care about very much. And I have to watch a lot of it, like, because for some reason she doesn't tend to be with the rest of the crew most of the time. So anytime that we're on what's going on with her, when we're like doing that with like Penny and Katie, they don't tend to have their own shit going on that much. They're tied in enough with the rest of the group that their solo on-screen time is minimal. But Alice gets a lot of alone time on camera, a lot. And I just don't feel like her storylines are really worth it. And there's a feeling of her character now that they're just sort of using her as a way to throw a wrench in things all the time. And that they need to keep one person from the group sort of separate in order to have them be the thing that throws it all out of whack at the last second. And that she was the one that meshed the least well with the rest of the group. And so that was just sort of the default. Like they just decided, well, you know, Alice doesn't really get along with everybody, so why don't we have her be the one? And I just don't care at this point. So we see her peeling this anti-magic paint off the walls and collecting it in this little bowl. And she hears somebody coming and she puts it underneath her mattress, thinking, I think that the librarian is coming in. And instead, it's Dean Fogg. And he tells her, you know how the library has all the books about everyone who's ever lived? The great blank spot is over. The library can update their books again. So if your friends were to get their memories back, the library would know. They'd try to find them to keep them safe from the monster that you warned us about. And basically what he's doing is, I'm letting you know this is exactly what's about to happen, that they did get their memories back, but I can't just like say that right here out in front of them. So we have the like thing with Santa being like, oh, they have books about when you're sleeping and awake and naughty or nice. You know how much time that would have saved me. And there, like, eventually Santa winds up getting out of here, and somehow he has his like sleigh and reindeer. I don't know how that worked, but that's fine. I don't care. But I think this is part of it as well, is the weirdness of having like, I feel like they had to add Santa to the mix to get us to care about whatever's happening with Alice at all. But yeah, she says if we escape, they'll just read our books, find out where we are, and come after us. And he says, so, well, we just take the books or we destroy them. But first, we have to actually escape. And she says, I can get us to the fireplace. Just be ready. And eventually, they get out there. I'm going to just kind of speed through what's going on with her because I don't really, like I said, I don't really care about this. They managed to break out. I'm not even sure exactly what it is that she did because she like peeled like anti-magic paint on the walls, put it into like the magic lock. And because the paint is anti-magic and the lock is magic, putting those little pieces into the lock disrupts the flow and unlocks the door, I think is what that was. So she gets them out that way, and they have to go around the library trying to find their books. She finds this like false wall that they walk through to get to the office, the librarian's office. And they had found the books, or there's like the books of everyone, but then there's the librarian's office. The books of everyone, her book and her friend's books are gone. And there's like a notice there about how they are under special consideration to be like revised and reshelved. So she decides that she doesn't want to leave until she's found their books because it's just too much danger for the library to be able to track everybody down immediately. And she stays, and Santa leaves. He takes off. And that's about the summary of what happened there. So let's go back to the deal being brokered between Elliot and Margot. And they're trying to figure out, how exactly, even if you can give me Bacchus, why would that help me? Because he's just going to like sense that I'm nearby and he's going to run away. And I should mention too that Margot has said something about how Bacchus is hiding in Fillory. I don't remember if he mentioned anything about that, but I was like surprised that I didn't put that together at all. That's what he's doing in Fillory, is that he's just trying to hide. Because he knows that this thing is after him, which I just didn't put together, that he was aware this was happening. And she explains to the creature that she has this god meth, which later on Josh brings up and asks her like, hey, what the fuck is the deal with this? You knew that it was there. Why didn't we just use that against him? And I love when she holds it up, the creature like almost looks like he is going to come in his pants as he says, where did you get that? And she says, I didn't, but I know that enough of it will mess up a god long enough for you to do whatever you need to do. And Josh tries to interject, but it's pretty much ineffective. And they decide that they are going to poison Bacchus, and Josh is going to be the one to do it. So then the rest of the crew decides to talk to Marina, because it becomes clear that the library has put a bounty on all their heads, and they are worth quite a bit of money. She says, of course I'm getting paid. The McAllisters have a bounty, dead or alive. The real use, not the witness protected use. So you can see how it would be profitable for me if I could get you back to normal. And this makes sense, because that was like the whole question Penny was asking was, why are you helping us? And it's for the money, baby. Usual why. So they ask what they're offering, and she says 3 Deweys, and they don't know what the hell that is. But it turns out that's what they're calling the coins that represent different amounts of magical energy. There's just enough magic in the air to keep the boring masses fat and happy, but you've got an itch to do something bigger. You have to file a request with the library. They decide if you're trustworthy, and they give you a cute little battery in the shape of a coin. They put the faces of famous librarians on there, but Dewey's the only one people can remember. And Laura Bush, but Bush is just never stuck. And they say that they'll pay the bounty themselves if she will just allow them to do what it is that they need to do. And she's kind of like, you know what? 5 Jewies and you got a deal. And I have trackers on all of you. So if you try to run, it won't go your way. And it turns out later that is not true. It absolutely does not matter if they run, but she is aware that they are not going to, because a deal is a deal, and they wouldn't do that because they're lawful good, as she puts it, which is pretty fun, actually. I rather liked that. Also, just because they're trying to make this deal with her, I do not trust that she would not turn them in. Like, it seems as if Katie winds up taking care of the problem later by, I think, killing Marina, but I'm not positive that's what's actually happened there. But I wouldn't be surprised if Marina took their money and then turned around and handed them over to the McAllisters anyway. So we're going to go back into Fillory. It's really funny to me that they are just like, you know, wearing their ordinary clothes up in here again. And Josh is talking to Margot about the fact that we could have used this and then we could have killed him with Julia's God-killing bullet. And she rightfully is like, are you fucking dense? Do you remember what happened last time? All it did was kill the host. And the monster just jumped into who was nearby. And he says, for all we know, Elliot is already dead. And she counters with, or he's trapped in there, watching everything this monster does, waiting for us to find a way to help him. And Josh doesn't want to hear it. And honestly, I'm a little mad at him for that. Even if Elliot is already dead, do you not hear the words she's saying? That shit would just jump into somebody else. So what exactly was your big idea, dude? He keeps acting like she's being so unreasonable. You don't have an alternate plan. Come up with something, and then maybe you can keep being mad. But until then, you're just being a fucking useless waste right now. And I am so glad at the way that Margot fucking yells at him later. And can we just talk about the beauty of her saying, you nutsacked out, didn't you? Which is like, honestly, that makes so much more sense. Nutsacks are incredibly sensitive, and the instant they're poked at all, they like shrivel up into themselves and the person like gets dropped to the floor. It makes total sense to say that. And when he gives her a look, she says, what, pussied out makes better sense in this context, which, again, I love her so much. But yeah, long story short, he like starts to try and poison Bacchus. Bacchus does this whole monologue about how him and Josh are the same. They both just want to make the people around them happy and have a good time. And that both of them are really underappreciated. That he's going to like have this drink and it's to Josh, the real Josh that nobody else can see. It's a pretty over the top moment, and Josh is so touched that he knocks the glass out of Bacchus's hand and then tells him that he peed in it, is his explanation. Which is honestly so funny to me. I didn't know what he was going to say. And then when he said, he didn't even say I peed in it. He said I pee-peed in it, which just like is so much worse. And honestly, is there a better way to get that across, like that, to explain that in the context of a party god, somebody pissed in your drink? That's genius. It would never have occurred to me to say something that ridiculous, but with Bacchus, that makes total sense. And of course he buys it. Like, I just didn't even think about it. Oh, that really fucking killed me. And I like too that when Josh goes up to Bacchus's place, runs into this girl that he knows from a party, and she's like kind of not sure if he's even going to remember her or anything. And she has this amazing outfit on with this black and white bow. I am here for this outfit. Okay. This is some good shit. But yeah, she says that it's good that you're here. He's been darker these past few weeks. I think a friendly face could really cheer him up. So we cut back from there to Quentin and Julia because she has finally found them. And I liked the two of them. Like, you know, there has been so many ups and downs, but I feel like their friendship feels very real, like recently especially, in a way that it wasn't for me before. And I like this. I like that there doesn't seem to be any sexual tension anymore. Now, that is not to say maybe it won't come back and they won't, you know, eventually hook up. There's certainly possibilities for that. But at the moment, it just does feel like they're so happy to see each other and so relieved. And I'm glad that's not seeming to be part of the equation right now. He asks her if she knows what happened to Alice, and she doesn't. And they explain to her the whole thing with the library. So I am running out of time, and I have not even gotten to the best part. So let's speed this up, shall we? They realize that in order to, like, in order to do what they need to do to get access to these Deweys, they are going to need a source of magic to create. So here it is. The library's official story is that the McAllister family heroically turned magic back on. So they gave them a free pass to use as many coins as they want. They give them these special cards with no limits, no questions asked. Only a few of them exist, and they call them black cards. So they want one of these, and they realize that they are going to have to forge it, and that it's going to have to be good enough to even fool the library, which we wind up getting a black card made because Penny has a connection with a dude who does forgeries that he knew before he even enrolled at Breakbills. So that connection should still be there. What follows is one of my favorite things this show has ever done. And I know what you're thinking. Is it the heist? It's not the heist. What it is Penny pulling out his phone to call this friend and realizing that he still has his old persona's phone. And that means that all of the contacts that he was about to try and make use of are not there, which means that he has to figure out how to get onto his old phone profile. And they all realize that they all need to do that. And then we get this like sequence of each of them trying to log into their alternate, their actual profiles. Guys, I don't know why this fucking like delighted me so much. I think it's because little stupid details like this are the things that I think about when I like read stories or watch stories like this, like the details about getting back into your original life. And I just love how they like, we cut from this like moment of, yeah, we're going to try and forge a black card. And yeah, we're going to do this like big badass fucking, and then all of a sudden it's just everybody on their phones going, oh God, it's saying that I have to use my password and they're sending it to my old phone. If I had my old phone, why would I even knew this? I don't like, this is the whole point of this thing. I mean, we have all been here, right? Every single solitary one of us. It's so great. And then there comes this thing with Quentin, who is like trying to get in touch with his dad to see if his dad is okay. And he is calling from an unfamiliar number. So Julia tries to say his dad isn't picking up. Probably that's why, right? That he just doesn't recognize the number, and nobody answers the phone if they don't recognize the number. But it's certainly possible something really bad has happened. And we aren't going to find out until the next episode what the message is that his mother called and left on the phone is. Then we meet Penny's friend, who I do not know how they cast this guy, but Frankie is so real a person to me. First of all, I just want to say that I appreciate this show having several fat characters this episode that are not there for like comic relief. Like, not that Frankie isn't a comical character, because he is, but his weight isn't the joke. And Frankie, it turns out, has basically used so much luck magic in order to make these forgeries that the luck has stuck, and now he has this amazing luck all the time. And in the duration of them hanging out with him, he like wins a sweepstakes. He can park next to a fire hydrant and nobody will see it or even care. A bird brings him a sandwich in a bag. Like, there is so much. I love not only this as a bit with him, but I love everybody's reaction to it, because he isn't explaining it and he just keeps on. Like, at one point Quentin says, "Did that bird just bring you a sandwich?" And he just goes, "Yeah, why? Do you want it?" "Well, I mean, yeah, but..." And then Julia jumping in and going, "Enough about the sandwich. What the fuck, Frankie?" So excellent. I loved it. It was just so good. So he says that 99% of the art you see in museums is fake, because why waste the real thing on people who can't tell the difference anyway? But fooling magicians is extremely difficult. And that's where I really do my good work. What is it that you need? And they say a black card, and he's like, okay, I mean, I can do it, but that is going to be a big ass job, and I'm going to need a lot of stuff for it. This is when they get interrupted with the like gift basket and the check and everything, whatever. And he winds up reaching out again and taking the like basket that has the shoes in it and then closing the door and like leaving them there again. Oh, it's amazing. Are you sure those are in your size? They're always in my size. Fucking God. It's so good. So he says that he's going to need a real one, that he can make a mold of it. He's going to need, like, I think, half a Dewey to get it started. He also wants to be paid 10 Deweys for the job, which is a lot, but he's just kind of like, if this black card thing works, you're going to have plenty of Deweys to give away. It's not going to matter. And I'm going to need a full 2 minutes with the card in order to do this job, plus 2 Philly cheesesteaks, 4 liters of cherry soda, not store brand. That's a deal breaker. And I love Penny going, I know. There's just such a good moment there of like the feeling of them having been old friends. It's great. Genius situation. So they have to figure out how they can raise this money. And the best way to do it is the push. High rollers play for Deweys, but you can buy in for less. Are any of you good at cards? And they all look at Quentin. So here comes one of the best like sequences. I love when this show does this. I loved the other heist episode too. I love heists in general, but this show does them particularly well because they just decide to go full in with basically mimicking outright the way that these movies that depict these kinds of things go. So the game is a pretty simple, like, is my card higher and better than your card? But it's all about how you can cheat and using magic to cheat subtly enough, but effectively enough that you keep coming out on top and the other person isn't able to predict the way in which you cheat. And it's just everybody knows that everybody's cheating. That's the way the game is played. That's the whole thing. But you just can't get caught cheating. That's not that's part of the thing. And, he says this is Frankie again. He says, I'm trying to find the exact spot where this sentence begins because he's just explaining the way that this all works. Because he's talking about like, okay, a magic card game is hard under normal circumstances, but right now the library is only putting out enough magic for small scale spells. I mean, one big transformation and I'm going to black out the entire room. So Frankie says, yeah, it's about efficiency. That's Quentin that said that. Some magicians are semi-trucks guzzling magic to do a simple spell. Some of us are Priuses. What are you? And he tries to say a sensible mid-size. And this is when Penny interrupts and says, what was the one that would always explode? That's funny. So they decide that Penny is going to go in with him. It's a one-on-one game, but he can have like a person stand by. So they go and they buy in using Penny's services exclusively for a solid month as the buy-in, which Penny did not agree to beforehand, but Quentin just presents this as an option and the guy goes for it, and it seems like he's excited about it. So then we have the montage of Quentin playing these games, and he keeps winning, but it's a pretty close thing a couple of times. I just thought that this was done really well. And I like that Quentin has a chance to be confident here again, because this is something that he's good at, while there's still a sense of like, you don't know how it's going to go. And eventually what it comes down to is it's him versus the big bad. And Quentin does something that causes the entire room to basically erupt in a thunderstorm. And the guy for a second is like, why are you doing this? And then he realizes that Quentin used up all the ambient magic in the room. And now they have to play without magic. And Quentin has this advantage of having actually done tricks with actual cards. So he can cheat without magic even. And this dude was not prepared for that. So Quentin winds up winning, even though the claim is, now I guess we have to play an honest game. And I really, really enjoyed it, to be fair. I thought that the effect of the thunderstorm was well done. I thought Quentin deciding to actually use physical tricks was a nice touch considering what we know about him. Just the whole thing was cool to watch. So he, drops his card. He won. This dude seems a little bit thrown. He did not expect that to happen. And they walk away with what they need. So then there is the getting the card, and they just have to borrow one. So they sneak up on this woman, and Katie steals the card while Penny chats her up and is like, don't I know you from somewhere? To which she's basically like, you may have seen me in an old porno. Which I was like, girl, what are you doing out here just being like, maybe you watched me in a porn. Is that it? Girl, okay. And they copy the card, get it back to her, none the wiser. It seems like she does not realize that even happened. So then comes the big play. And they are going to have to go into like a bank, basically, to withdraw. It's like a library-run bank. And withdraw the Deweys that they need using this card. So the way this works is apparently the luck on the spell is basically ensuring people don't even check to see if the card is fake or not. It's not even that the card itself is such a great copy or that it works. It's that the luck keeps people from actually checking. And that means that there's an imbalance and bad luck that is supposed to be happening to them isn't and has to go somewhere. And where it goes is this bear. And one of them has to hold that bear all day and he will have a very bad day while he does. And initially, Julia is going to be the one to do it. And she does it because she is sort of bulletproof, as she puts it. But as soon as she picks it up, Frankie looks at her and is like, no, 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 no. Whatever the fuck is up with you, it's messing this whole thing up. You can't do it. And she winds up tossing it to Quentin. And what follows is the best fucking sequence of Katie in a blonde bob wig and Penny in a mustache and like a tracksuit as they go in to make their withdrawal and have like keep on almost running into problems, but then just managing to skate by them, while Quentin has increasingly bad luck, even though all he's trying to do is just sit at home and be quiet and not draw any attention to himself or do anything dangerous. So it's just like it starts off with just Julia bringing him a bowl of soup, and he reaches for it and he knocks the spoon into the soup, which I hate. Oh God. And it gets progressively worse where he like manages to get a paper cut from a paper towel. And then eventually we have him being attacked by a snake that came out of the toilet. And finally a chandelier that like, or not even a chandelier. It's like a piece of the ceiling that like falls out and almost lands on his head. As this is all happening, his mother calls and he loses track of the teddy bear because he is so distracted about this phone call that he lets go of it. And for just a moment, they almost hit a problem with the withdrawal, and they have to get checked up on again. But luckily he remembers and picks it up just in time to save their asses, and they are able to successfully complete the withdrawal and get out of there. So then we go to Bacchus, and finally Josh goes back, he gets yelled at by Margot. He goes back and talks to Bacchus and says, I know gods are supposed to be distant and unknowable, but you're a good guy, before he drinks the drink. And Bacchus says, I want to tell you a secret. And then he takes a swig and he says, what did you put in this? And he collapses. And I am dying to know what the I'm going to tell you a secret was all about. I really, 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 really want to know. So yeah, he falls to the floor. And the next thing we know, he is waking up in the woods with Elliot on top of him. And Elliot's saying, I would like for you to explain what you did to me, because I know you locked me in a cage and you took something from me. And Bacchus says, you don't remember what you are? You remember all that other stuff, but you don't remember what you did? And Elliot says, the word monster has been thrown around. And he says, that's right. We put you with the rest of your kind. And Elliot says, and I ate them. To which Bacchus replies, you are making my case for me here. You do realize that, right? And it's an interesting question. He says, we have the same parents. Why am I a monster and you're a god? And Bacchus says, if you don't want to be a monster, then let me go. Elliot says, then just give me back what you took. And Bacchus says, I can't. I'm sorry. And I don't know if he means he's not allowed, because he says, I can't ever. Or if he means that it's not possible. I'm assuming it's like too much is at stake and I can't. But I don't know. And Elliot says, well, whatever it is, now it's a part of you. And I can feel it. And so he just cuts Bacchus open and pulls out what looks like his still beating heart. And when he does this, Margot kind of goes, ow. And it seems that this thing is sending off this light when Elliot lifts it up that her fairy eye can't even look at it. And it's not like, it looks like a heart, but it doesn't quite come out of the heart part of his chest. It almost looks like a kidney shape or something. And we cut from there to Katie. She's handing over the payment to Marina, and she walks away. And then this kid walks up to Marina and says that he has been looking for her. And we don't see what he does to her. We don't see anything. We just see Katie walking away with a black card in her back pocket. And she comes across this woman who says, "These are free to a good home. Are you interested?" And has a box of puppies. What's up with this? This has got to be a setup, right? This is not, this is a weird thing to have happen. But everybody comes back to the apartment, and Katie is sitting in the gold chair, and she's petting a little puppy that she got. And she says that she handled the problem of Marina. And now we can do this cloaking spell so that the McAllisters don't all show up and kill us. But she doesn't say what happened to Marina. She doesn't explain why she decided to adopt a puppy. She doesn't say anything about what's happening. And I am... Oh, Ashley says so they don't show it, but I think Katie transfigured the bear into the magic coins. Oh, that's messed up. She took the good luck and gave Marina the bad luck, says Hugabug. I did not get that. That wasn't clear at all to me. Did you guys get that when you watched it? I don't know how I was supposed to get that. I definitely didn't. I thought it was weird about the puppy thing. But, okay. All right. That's interesting. I don't know about that, though. Like, I don't like the fact that I just didn't understand that happened. I wonder how many other people missed that. I feel like it had to have been, it can't have been just me. But then I did miss the whole thing with the first episode, so. Well, all right. Well, I guess we'll see what happens there. But we end with Quentin picking up the phone to listen to the voicemail, and he doesn't know what his mom is going to say. And that is the end of the episode. So that's it. I'm going to wrap this up. Jesse says there was only one clue earlier where Katie mentioned that Marina killed her mom. I think that's the only foreshadowing we get. That's fair. Yeah, and somebody says, like, well, that was the other Marina. And I'm like, yeah, but this Marina was willing to let them all die and go get a breakfast burrito. So I'm really not that mad at Katie for that, to be honest. All right, cool. Well, guys, thank you for telling me that, because I did not get it. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you all again so much for listening and for hanging out with me. Thank you again to Ashley for commissioning this. And I will be seeing you again soon with a new episode. So until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.